Are you ready?
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
I was right.
Let's go!
I'm the best.
And here are your hosts, Jessica Towne and Rob Langi.
You're a jackass.
Embrace the madness.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into it. Man, that's brought to you by The Painted Line. I am one of your hosts, Rob Langi, the voice of the people. With me, as always, is the wonderful, the multi-talented. Listen, I've never seen someone multitask like I just watched Jess do for the last 5 minutes. With me, Jess was handling a business call and was just ready to go, like she was just getting ready to hang up so that we could get here live for you guys. But Jess, how are you?
I'm busy, but good busy, I guess. But also trying not to jump off a tall building, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, yes, and Happy New Year to you, Jess.
Happy New Year.
This is wedding year for you, Jess.
It is 6 months. It was 6 months from Saturday, so we're under 6 months now.
So wedding month or wedding year for you, which is really good because now, Jess, you could just focus on that and forget about the dreck and the disaster and the dumpster fire and any other cliche we could come up with that describes the 2020 Philadelphia Eagles, whose season could not have come to a more fitting end than it did on Sunday. And look, me and Jess are going to talk a lot of Sixers after this, but tonight has got to be our opportunity to wrap up this season and talk about where in the hell this franchise goes from here. Make sure you're commenting along with us tonight, so we will answer your comments. As always, our number one fan of all time, Chris, is here. Very pumped to see us on a Tuesday night. Glad to have him here with us. So, Jess.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things like where do we even start? Where do we even start? Should we start with the game Sunday? Because I know that you have a very strong opinion on it, and I do too. But I want to start with, what are your thoughts on just the way that the whole game played out Sunday?
I think it's pretty pathetic that the Washington football team couldn't play a better football game than that. I can't figure out where the disconnect is, and I have my theories. But my number one, it was reported, like Doug said earlier in the week, it was reported multiple times earlier in the week, Carson Wentz was not going to dress, and Nate Sudfeld was going to be your backup quarterback and was going to get some playing time.
Somebody told Mike Greenberg Carson Wentz wasn't going to dress because apparently.
Well, this is my point. Like, was I the only one that heard that? Because
no, we all heard it. We all heard it was a coach's decision.
Right.
We saw Mike Garafolo's report. Like, right. It was there.
And then you see the inactive report come out, and it's the entire team. Like, the only two starters on offense were Zach Ertz and Jason Kelce. And then the only starters on the defense were Malik Jackson, Brandon Graham. That was it. Like, that was all that was there. That was all that played. So I can't figure out where the issue is. Now, do I think that Jalen should have been shut down at the – like, I think that he should have sat Jalen at the half, and that should have been it. Or at the end of the third quarter. Like, why did he
Well,
why did you have a drive in the fourth quarter and then they sat him? Like, that didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Just make a decision, stick with it. But again, it's the story of the Philadelphia Eagles this year, like making the decision too little, too late. But then there's the people that are like, oh, well, why would they? People are like mad that Doug Peterson went for it on fourth down when he could have kicked the field goal. And it's like, you must be new. Like, you must be new here. We've had this conversation every week. You're talking about the same guy that played for the tie against the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, I don't know. Also, like, I mean, if you want to make the playoffs, like, win more than 6 games. Like, I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and listen, I agree with everything you said. And I think here's where the issue was with the move. First of all, shocking, Doug's communication sucks. I don't know if it's always or if it's just this year, but some guys knew, other guys didn't. I don't know how that in the final team meeting before the game, it's not addressed to the entire team, defense and offense, that, hey, Nate's going to play a little bit tomorrow, so we're going to get out there and play for him. Doesn't seem like it was addressed with everybody. That's the first thing. Secondly, Jess, you hit it right on the head. We all knew that there was a possibility Nate was going to play. Well, then it should have been to start the second half. If he does it to start the second half, I don't think the uproar from outside of the Giants fandom, I don't think you hear anything. I think people say, well, okay. But it was, it's a 3-point game. You're in the fourth quarter. It's like, now you're doing it. This just seems awkward and weird. Now it seems forced rather than what your game plan was. It didn't help that Jalen Hurts had like a QB rating of like 25 at that point in the game. So all these things. And then what makes it worse, okay, is Doug's inability to hold a press conference and answer questions the right way. Ray Dittinger's response was one of the greatest things I've ever heard. When they asked Doug after the game, he goes, oh, well, he's been here 4 years. He's earned the right to play. Ray Dittinger's response to that was, what is this, Rudy? Like, what are you, like, you don't know what you have in Nate Sudfeld? Like, I would have rather him come out and say, we were always going to play Nate. That was always the plan in this game. Boom.
Right. Because it was.
Way, you make it sound so much worse. You make it sound like you're trying to cover up the fact that you were trying to lose a game. Okay? And I don't put it all on Doug because we all know he doesn't make decisions. These are coming from the top. So, but it was a perfect ending to a disastrous season, because the one good thing that came out of this was, I think, the national audience and the national media finally understood the dysfunction that us here locally have been talking about since week 5, week 6. I mean, honestly, since May, since the draft, when Jalen Hurts was first drafted, and you said, well, this doesn't make much sense why you're doing that. And that's what I love right now is all the people say, well, see, he was right. No. You will never make me feel as though that was the right pick. Jalen Hurts can win a Super Bowl, and I would still tell you that was not the right pick at that time.
I just think that anybody, I mean, it's a shame because I think, first of all, I think Howie Roseman's a snake. Let's start there.
He's
and I think, unfortunately, that the reason that he is not in any sort of trouble means that, unfortunately, Jeffrey Lurie and him are the same person in a way. Like, they're both on the same page. And I think the Super Bowl really made egos go through the roof. And I think that organization has changed for the worse. Like, the Super Bowl might have been the greatest and worst thing. It was the greatest thing to happen to us. It was the worst thing that could have possibly happened to the Philadelphia Eagles as an organization. And I just think that even the media is trying to absolve Howie Roseman of blame. Like, there's no one who's talking enough about Howie Roseman's issues. And I mean, it goes back to the draft. Like, not listening to his scouts, first of all, is a jackass move, right? So, like, everybody's telling you to draft Justin Jefferson. The Minnesota Vikings war room is cackling at you because you're such an idiot. And they physically can't believe that you're such an idiot. The rest of us can't believe that you're such an idiot. But your little man complex took over, and you grew this astronomical ego, so you think you know best, even though you know nothing about football, even in the slightest. So all he did was not get a legitimate linebacker, chose the wrong wide receiver, who was on Twitter in the locker room, by the way, right after being ruled out with a concussion, and you took a quarterback for absolutely no reason. So this can be the quarterback situation could be attributed to two things. One, either the Eagles saw something between Carson getting knocked out of that game, that Seattle game that was a year ago today, by the way. You either saw something from there to draft night that showed you that Carson wasn't the guy. And in that case, you're an idiot for giving him the contract.
Right.
Or you just let your little man complex take over because you're Napoleon and you drafted a quarterback because you felt like it, which still makes you the idiot. Yeah. So now fast forward to the season, no one plays well. No one. miscues, turnovers, sacks, missed throws, missed tackles, drops. Like, you name it, it happened. Jake Elliott missing chip shot field goals and extra points. Like, you name it, it happened.
Mm-hmm.
But here we are sitting and talking about Carson Wentz's future and this whole quarterback issue because you have your head so far up your ass that you can't see what's actually supposed to go on and how a team is supposed to be run. But you also have no football knowledge, so why would you? But because you and Jeffrey are like this, your job isn't even remotely in jeopardy. So we all have to sit here and watch this team get set back at least 5 years because of age and cap issues. So
yeah, I tell you bring up so many good points here. Number one, Howie, and I've been saying this for the last year or two, and it's what people used to say about Joe Banner, and that's who he learned of. Howie's the smartest guy in the room. And that, in essence, is a little man complex, right? I'm not a football player. I'm not a football guy, but I'm smarter than all of you. And my decisions are going to work because in 2017, when the stars aligned, every decision worked. 1 year it worked. So, like, for him to say in that press conference, well, we don't just call quits after one bad year. Well, you're acting like you're the god of GMs because of one good year. You can't have it both ways, first and foremost.
Right.
Secondly, I'm very disappointed in Jeffrey Lurie. And I say that from the standpoint because I know that this team means a lot to Jeffrey Lurie. I mean, he's an owner that cares. You know that. You get it. You understand it. But right now, since they've won the Super Bowl, he's putting his own power and decisions above the success of the team. Mm-hmm. He wants Howie in place because he knows Howie's his puppet. I call them bathroom buddies, Howie and Jeffrey. They go to the bathroom together all the time. They slap high five when they come out. Okay, they're bathroom buddies. They're like little teenage girls. Oh, you want to go to the bathroom? Yeah, I'll come. And everybody runs to the bathroom. No, it's just who they are. I'm very disappointed that he's putting himself above the team right now because after Sunday, and, look, I think that there is a major disconnect in multiple areas. I think there's a disconnect between Howie and Doug. I think there's a disconnect between Carson, Howie, and Doug. I think there's a major – and I now believe that there is beginning to become a disconnect between Doug and his team. Now, these guys are never going to rip Doug because he's a good guy. They like Doug, the guy, the person, the coach. But there's – what happened on Sunday, there was a disconnect there. I'm not saying – like, I was okay with them not winning the game, obviously. It just didn't look bad the way he did it. And it seemed as though some of the players had no idea. I mean, they showed Jason Kelce multiple times on the sideline, looked pissed. And it makes Jason Kelce look bad because 2 weeks ago, he gives that unbelievable press conference where he talks about we want to win at all costs. So I don't know. How naive are you, though? I agree. But my problem is, but I just think the disconnect is happening now between the players and coach. And in any professional sport, once that happens, it is really hard to get the connection back. And if you can't get the connection back, then why drag this out? And I'm not calling for a job here, but there was this big meeting today, right? Doug, Howie, and Jeffrey had their big meeting today. We've heard nothing about it, which tells me nothing at all was decided. But if that meeting wasn't Jeffrey saying,
that's because the people who usually have, want to make things into stories and tell things to people at ESPN to make them into stories
weren't in it.
No, they were in there. They were just sitting there and didn't want that one getting out.
This is a good point. It's Jerry Jones, not as public, but starting to feel similar. A couple people said that to me this year, and it is starting to feel similar.
Yeah, it
is. He wants too much control. But here's the deal: in that meeting, this is exactly what needed to be said. If you are not going to fire both of them, which at this point I think is a mistake, but okay, it's off the table. They're both here. The whole point of that press conference yesterday was to let everybody know they're not going anywhere, right? That's why they both meet with the media together.
Right.
So if you're Jeffrey, the conversation should be very simple. Doug, if you want to continue coaching, you need an offensive coordinator who calls plays and makes adjustments in game. Howie, you need to step back from the personnel side a little bit and let John Dorsey or whoever have a bigger role in that, because this can't happen again on the field.
But here's the thing: I don't think that's the conversation.
No, I don't think
that's not the conversation. They didn't even. I don't even think they ventured near any of those things because one, Jeffrey's not going to take that control away from Howie. That's not what's going to happen. And I don't think Jeffrey knows enough to know that what Doug needs is an offensive coordinator that can call plays. So ultimately, you also made some really good points. So you first said about Howie Roseman, making a good point with like the one bad season.
Yeah.
But it goes both ways. Well, I mean, let's talk about it from the quarterback perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, one bad season and his job's gone right now. So keep that same energy for yourself or for your coach or for anyone else on the team that had a garbage season, because the roster was garbage, the coaching staff was garbage, the play calling was garbage, and everybody else on the team was garbage.
Mm-hmm.
But there's one person who lost his job and is the one person who is taking the heat for all of it. Do I think that he's completely, free of blame? No, he played his worst season we've seen him play in the NFL. It happened. Fine.
And he's got a lot
of
work.
Played horrible seasons at times. Eli Manning. You know who else played horrible seasons at times? Aaron Rodgers. Like, everyone's had a bad year where they've thrown a bunch of interceptions and nothing goes right. But I guarantee you, again, they'll be the first to tell you, I got to be better. But also, if you go back and look at it, was it always just their fault?
Right.
No, there's absolutely no reason that it should be down to one person. But for some reason, he's the only one who's taking the blame. The reports are coming out in the media. This, that, and the other thing. And to be completely honest, I've told you this. I have two working conspiracy theories right now. Two. And I believe them wholeheartedly. Now, again, these are just theories. Don't come at me.
I haven't seen number one, but I'm totally on board with you for your second one that you put up.
Okay, here's number one. My number one theory is, so we already talked about how Adam Schefter's report was crap. He even said it was speculation, which is a very, very, very irresponsible use of sources say, or, I'm hearing, or that kind of BS that they use. He admitted that it was all speculation. He did not talk to anybody. Okay. Carson Wentz has been silent since this all happened. Silent. He's not going to cause a distraction. He's not a me kind of guy. He's not going to bring negative light on the team or himself. He's not going to do it because that's not who he is. He shows up, he plays football, he goes home to his wife and his daughter, and he hunts. Like, and then he goes to church. Like, those are the three things that Carson Wentz does, and he does nothing else in between. Okay? Like, he is a genuinely good person. He's not doing this, okay? And for someone to be around Carson Wentz, they have to be similar. So his agent is not someone who's going to come out and put stories in the media. He's not going to be the one to leak things here and there, especially mornings of games, especially like Dallas morning, which was when the Schefter one came out. Mm-hmm. That's not what's going to happen, right? So it's our, and if you look at Rob Maaddi's article today,
great article.
Carson didn't say anything, and his agent didn't say anything. The one person who's not given blame, who's not mentioned in this article, who should probably look for ways to keep the blame and keep the heat off of himself is Howie Roseman.
Yep.
You never see anything about Howie, so here's my theory. My first theory is that the team source is Howie Roseman. Carson hasn't said anything. His agent hasn't said anything. Wentz isn't a distraction guy. So this is why Carson didn't speak to the media, right? He doesn't know what he wants to do. He's going to take some time. He's going to reflect. He's going to decompress. He's going to really unpack and weigh his options and weigh what's going on within and without, like within inside the organization and the outside the organization. He's going to think about it all. Howie knows he messed up that draft. He knows he's the reason they're in this situation right now. Mm-hmm. But because he's a snake and disregards other humans and uses his players as pawns in his little game, which is something I've said repeatedly about Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz, that they're just pawns in Howie Roseman's game, and it's awful what's going on. Mm-hmm. he knows that the majority of the fan base prefers Carson Wentz. And especially after these last couple games, we've seen some good things from Jalen, but it's no better. It changes nothing, right? So he knows he might have screwed it all up, but the easiest way to take the heat off himself is to leak fake stories to the media, paint Carson as the villain, so he can just trade Carson and it'd be like, oh, well, this is what he wanted. You can't blame me.
Right.
He didn't want to be here. He didn't want to do this. He didn't want to do that. So that's my working conspiracy theory number one, is if you see any team source, it's Howie Roseman.
Okay.
That is my first conspiracy theory,
Yeah.
which leads directly into conspiracy theory number two. The players see this. The players can't be happy about the way that they are treated within this organization. So they're taking to Twitter, talking on sports shows, doing whatever they can to take matters into their own hands to stage a coup against the Howie Roseman, Doug Peterson, Jeffrey Lurie, whatever it is that's going on right now. Those are my two conspiracy theories.
Well,
One, Howie's the leak. Two, the players are staging a full coup.
yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. So I'll get to this question in a minute, Chris, because I have an answer to that. But before I get to that, so Howie's without a doubt the leak, and it's exactly what you said. This is all about deflection. Okay, he's very
the whole PR thing.
It's very narcissistic, if you ask me. So that's the first thing. I believe the players are staging a coup. I believe former players are trying to paint Doug in a better light. You've heard Chris Long make comments, Torrey Smith tweeting that you really think Doug's making these decisions. Kind of. Listen, we all hate Orlando Scandrick. He's a creep. But what Orlando Scandrick said about Howie Roseman might have been the truest thing he said. And it's Howie's a snake.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
He crossed over. He crossed the line when he started to talk trash about Malcolm Jenkins. We don't accept that. We don't stand for that. But the rest of it was definitely on, like dead on.
Yeah, it's a great point here. I'm getting vibes of that whole Chip Kelly disaster, and and that's what it feels like. So here's my problem.
But the second half of that is Lurie's got to grow up here. Jeffrey Lurie's in on it. You know what I mean? Like, he's in on the whole thing. So I don't know what's going to. I think that's the thing. I think that goes to my theory part two. Like, the players see this and they see that there is quite literally no way to break it. Like, there's nothing Howie can do that's going to make Jeffrey Lurie step in and fire him. So they have to do something to try to make something give. Like, this is like you could write a movie about this. I might. Maybe I will. Who knows?
Hey, it could work.
I mean, it is just, again, this is just a working theory, but I feel like
the whole thing is a soap opera. So, I mean, you could read it as a movie. And, you brought it at the very beginning, and I really want to talk about this because it's very frustrating. It's an argument I'm consistently having.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that as fans, the lure of names like Adam Schefter and Chris Mortensen and all you believe these guys because they're so tied in. I get that. I understand that. But here's what you got to understand about the year 2020, 2021. Twitter and social media dominate everything. ESPN, where those two gentlemen who are classy guys and they're hardworking guys, but they work for a company that has turned into what I call narrative company. All they want to do is fit a narrative, hence why they literally talked about Carson Wentz every week for the last 5 weeks, okay, so that they can get clicks and ratings. So the old days of really making sure your source is giving you factual evidence is over. 9 times out of 10, the source is giving you speculation, especially when you don't say where the source came from, when you just say sources say. Adam Schefter, to his credit, came out and said, hey, I didn't talk to Doug, or I'm sorry, I didn't talk to Carson. I didn't talk to Carson's people. I didn't talk to the team. This was all speculation. No, Willard. No.
Absolutely not. Not
no,
even.
Willard.
Nope.
No. Chris Mortensen went on The Fanatic, said, I did not talk to Carson. I did not talk to Carson's agent. This did not come
between the lines, people.
But see, what has happened is where they're missing the point and where they're messing up is once they put this out to Twitter, it's over because then the narrative runners, whether it be just people like us, Jess, or typical fans, or asshats like Joe Giglio and Tom Kelly and all these other morons at WIP, well, now they're just going to run with it. And now what they're doing is attacking the character of one of the strongest character guys the Eagles have ever had. And that, to me, is where this goes wrong.
Yeah.
And, that's why it's funny because before all this happened, I had recorded the voice of the people that went out this morning. And I mentioned Rob Maaddi as a guy that I listen to because he gets the information, he checks it, and he basically tells you where it's coming from. He told you in that article today, this came to a source close to Carson, or close to the situation.
Close
He
to
didn't
the
say,
team.
what's that?
Close to the team.
Yeah, he did not say source.
But and Chris, to your point, then why not say something if you're Carson? Because Carson hasn't made a decision yet. He could come out and say, I would like a trade. He could. That's still a possibility. He could also say, I'm willing to, I want to stay, but I want reassurance that this is my job. But if you tell me that there's a quarterback competition going into August, I don't want to be here. Which, again, given everything that's happened,
What would you like to say?
whatever he chooses, like, he's got my support. Who am I? But he's got my support 150% because of the BS that this organization has put him through. If he wants to start elsewhere, he deserves a fresh start. He deserves somewhere where the coaches back him 100%, the front office backs him 100%, and they give him a roster that's actually serviceable instead of a 35-year-old Alshon Jeffrey.
Well,
That's just me. So why not say something if you're Carson? He's not going to come out and say something if he doesn't have a decision made. He's not going to come out here and just dip and dodge questions for the hell of it. He's going to wait until he has a decision, and then he will talk to the media. He's not going out there to feed himself to the Sharks. That's stupid.
And that's exactly what I said today, because I said, and of course Tom Kelly got all butthurt on it. I said the reason he's not talking is because you morons are going to eat him alive for whatever he says. And if
it doesn't matter what he says.
If he comes out and says, I don't know yet, I have to think about this, you'll rip him for that. So there's no positive for him coming out and talking to you. By the way, many of you who have been very unfair in the way you've covered this whole story, that's why he's not talking right now, because it makes no sense for him if he doesn't, because no matter what he says, there will be a faction of the media, of the fan base, of everybody else to twist the thing to make him look worse. So he's going to go take a week. Mike Garafolo put out a report that there's going to be a lot of discussions between Carson's camp and the Eagles this week. I don't believe anything Howie or Doug said in the press conference yesterday. I don't believe anything they said. I don't believe Howie wants to cut off his fingers. If he does, please come here. I'll be glad to cut them off for you. I'll be glad.
That was the most ridiculous thing.
Oh my God.
But again, it was so unbelievably obvious the way he was trying to dip and dodge those questions. And were you watching on Twitter? Did you watch the live stream?
Yes.
When it was on. So I thought the most interesting thing was, obviously there was a problem with Doug's audio when he first started talking, but we could hear him on Twitter. Yeah. We could hear him on the Twitter live stream. So he started talking. I'm like, all right, Doug's giving an answer, whatever. But, they asked the question and they just both sit there in silence. And that's why Howie started to be like, oh, coach, you can take this one. And then his audio wasn't working. And you could see Howie was really irritated that audio wasn't working, which is funny because everyone else other than the reporters could hear what Doug was saying. It didn't really matter to us. But again, it goes back to, I think if Howie could trade him, if Howie gets his way, he will trade Carson Wentz. Mm-hmm. And someone will trade for Carson Wentz. It doesn't matter what his contract looks like. There are a lot of teams that are not going to have quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it earlier today, the Rob Maaddi show group text, and there was a list. Let me find said list. Okay, so teams that won't have a quarterback next year. The Indianapolis Colts, the New Orleans Saints. Tom Brady's on a 2-year deal, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that one is not wrong. The New England Patriots, the Minnesota Vikings, the Chicago Bears, and the Las Vegas Raiders. There are all these teams that need quarterbacks. You think New England might not think about it?
Well, I was going to say the contract isn't going to hurt another team. It's the Eagles who are going to get hurt if they trade it because it's a $34 million dead cap hit. So, like that contract, someone will trade for Carson with that contract. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, and the thing is, they're trying. I mean, the Eagles eat so much money of it that they're probably going to try to figure out a way where they can restructure, work it around. Like, the contract is, honest to God, the least of the worries right now. Mm-hmm. Because if you talk to any executive in the NFL, they're not going to abandon a quarterback who was an MVP candidate a few years ago, who threw for 4,000 yards last year, who was, oh, by the way, the first quarterback in NFL history to throw for 4,000 yards without having a 500-yard receiver. They're going to tell you that they think he'd be okay with a competent coaching staff, a competent front office, and actual players around him.
Yes. And here, so to answer Chris' question, I think this is two parts. Best case for Carson, as much as I hate to say it, is he goes and gets a fresh start because nothing's changing here. Right. However, if you're asking me what's the best case scenario for the Eagles, it's to salvage this relationship and keep him here. Because here's my thing. You cannot sell to me or anyone else that you're going forward with Jalen Hurts after what we saw in 4 games. Or 3 3/4 games. Because
well, it technically ends up being 4 because he played the fourth quarter of the Packers game.
So 4 games. Because all I know is the last 2 games against divisional opponents, he did not look good. And the other thing I know is that in the second half of every one of those games, when a team was able to make adjustments at halftime, and Doug does what he does, which is not make adjustments, they did not score. They scored 7 points in one, 6 in another, shut out in the other 2. If I'm the
lots of turnovers, lots of fumbles. That's everyone's argument with Carson Wentz, the fumbles?
Yeah, yes.
That's weird because Jalen Hurts
and me and you have said this. We're not here to rip Jalen Hurts, but I also from day one have said I don't know if Jalen Hurts is a starting quarterback, and I'm not. Listen, if you're ready to move on from Carson Wentz, well, you might have to draft one in one of the rounds this year because I don't know if you could sell me that Jalen Hurts is a guy.
Personally, if you're going to trade Carson Wentz, I also want them to trade Jalen Hurts. If you're gonna blow it up, blow it up.
Yeah.
If you're gonna blow it up because again, they've set this team back 5 years at least in terms of cap and age. So you talk about the age of the offensive line. You talk about the age of the wide receivers who you still owe a lot of money to. You talk about the age and the amount of money that's committed to the defensive line. You talk about the fact that you still don't have linebackers. You still don't have a secondary. You have 1 running back. And you're only going to have 1 tight end. So with everything that they need and how far they've set themselves back, we're not going to see anything. I don't expect a winning record until at least 2025. So why would you waste, again, just using Jalen and Carson as pawns in your little game? Don't do that to Jalen Hurts. You've done enough to Jalen Hurts. Stop using him as a pawn and trade him and let him actually be appreciated somewhere. Because here he's just, and again, because there's also going to be half the fan base that can't just move on from Carson Wentz mentally. You see it now. People just want to rip one or the other, which again, Jalen didn't ask for this. It's not fair to Jalen Hurts to be in the position that he's in, but it's going to be the same thing as the people that wanted Nick Foles to stay still have this complex about Carson Wentz. The people who want Carson to stay there's going to be a fraction of them that have this complex about Jalen Hurts. And it's just going to be an absolute dumpster fire. So the best thing for them to do is if they're going to trade one, I think they should trade both.
Yeah. And listen, no, Abe, we don't know what Carson wants to do. Carson doesn't know what he wants to do. I know he's not happy, nor should he be happy.
I'd be pissed if I was Carson Wentz.
And that's what I can't stand. Everyone's like, oh, he's a baby if he doesn't want to. No.
Why?
This is ridiculous, guys. This is a ridiculous argument at this point. He had a terrible season. Yes, they should have played Jalen Hurts when they did because they had him. But honestly, they should have never had him. They should have never had Jalen Hurts. It may not have made a difference on this season. This season sucked from the word go. From the time they jumped out 14-0 on the Redskins to lose the game.
when they admitted that they abandoned their plan for the season because of the pandemic, even though everyone else seemed to be just fine?
No, it's not sorry. It's not sorry if he wants to leave.
No, why would he want to stay here? Because here's what I will tell you. How many have you ever worked in a toxic work environment? Anybody who's listening worked in a toxic work environment? Is it enjoyable to go to work every day?
No.
Is it enjoyable to deal with toxic individuals who constantly undermine and snake around like the slimy pieces of trash that they are? No, that's not a place where anybody wants to be. Okay? So again, say my theory's right, by the way. Say my theory's right. And Howie's the reason all this is happening, and his little man complex is taken over, and there's nothing you can do about his ego. And the owner of the team who signs the paychecks is in on it as well. Mm-hmm. What good does that do for Carson Wentz as a person?
That's what I mean.
What good does it do for him as a player? It does absolutely nothing. It absolutely drains the life out of you. And
when you're able to give the FU speech and leave.
I don't know if Carson has that in him, but I think this might do it.
But it is. It you don't want to go to work every day. Now imagine being told countless times you're the guy, and countless times all the other actions totally counteracting that.
And again, the Jalen Hurts draft pick was a surprise to everyone other than Howie Roseman. So again, imagine you're there, you're doing your job, you get your promotion, you get your pay raise, you're thinking everything's hunky dory, everything's wonderful, and you think you're doing really well. Everyone's telling you you're doing really well. You smash all the doubts that everyone had about all the different aspects of your job that you couldn't do as well, or that people said you couldn't do. You crush all that and do exactly what you need to do. And then all of a sudden, you're watching TV, and your boss goes on the TV and goes, "Here's your replacement, just in case."
Yeah, and by the way,
you did really well, but just in case.
And when the time comes for you to be benched, you don't hear it from your head coach. The communication is not there. This is a dysfunctional organization.
The lies, the weaseling.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah. It's just, I don't even want to go back to the Folesian Society and all that stuff. We know the history there, but this was an ultimate slap in the face. And, it's just, they're so counterproductive with everything they do. They take one step forward, they take 3 steps back, and nothing is going to change.
And by the way, if any of my portions of theory number 1 are correct, it's a giant slap in the face to the fan base, and the fan base should be absolutely outraged that Howie Roseman thinks we're this stupid that we won't figure it out. It took me 10 minutes.
Well, let me say it to you this way. How is this any different than Jerry Colangelo? Not Jerry, Brian Colangelo and Burnergate. I mean, he's a weasel. He's in the grass. And if it's not Howie per se, it's his people that he's got doing his bidding. So let's be real here. Let's call a spade. This guy is nothing but an asshat who is going to ruin this organization if he has already has ruined. Okay,
it has been ruined.
What do you say to people that say Doug actually stuck with Carson too long this season? That's to me, that's another issue. To me, that's a separate issue from what we're talking about.
To me, there shouldn't have been a stuck with too long. It should have been, you and I are in this together. We are going to ride this dumpster fire out till the end. But I don't know what to tell you. Like, bad seasons happen, dude. Like, this roster simply was just not good enough. Like, yeah. I mean, what game was it? I don't even remember.
Well, let's just talk about, look, Jess, I think I made it very clear where I stood in the draft, who I wanted in the first round. that if it was, at 21 and all those 3 top receivers were gone, that it was a no-brainer. It's Justin Jefferson. He's a better player. He's got better pedigree. Jalen Reagor's from out in, at TCU. They're not really pro-style offenses. But here's my issue. Take the skill out of it for a minute and talk about the mentality. Justin Jefferson is a gamer. All I've seen from Jalen Reagor is I don't know if he really wants it. Seems like a bit of a baby. And I'm not talking about the injuries. That happens. Injuries happen. But he just whines. He's got to be on social media. He's got to be this. He's got to be – he's a terrible route runner.
Yes.
Okay? Everyone said, oh, you don't need a route runner. You need speed. You need speed. You need speed. Speed doesn't friggin' matter if you can't get open.
Really? Because that was a whole separate conversation that we had when DK Metcalf was out there.
That is the difference, T-Yam.
So wait. So this goes towards my theory number 2. The players are trying to take it into their own hands to make sure that is what happens. That's my theory. What's me running with conspiracy theories sitting here in my 2-bedroom apartment in Philadelphia going to do? Like, What am I going to do? Right? The players, they can have something to say about it. And I think they should. Again, if I'm sitting here and I can figure this out, it took me 10 minutes to put these 2 theories together. If I am just sitting out here and I can see it and I can figure it out, if I am right, there's no way in hell those players sitting in that locker room haven't figured it out.
Right.
And again, and I think it's going to say a lot if you see guys like Jason Kelsey decide to hang it up after this year. I think it's going to show you a lot about what's going on.
And I think the fact that a couple former players have come out and alluded to the fact that this is nothing new with Howie doing these things behind players' backs, it doesn't look good. It really, really, look, one of the saddest moments after that game was the 1 a.m. moment of Carson and Zach and Jason standing back out on the field by themselves. I'll tell you exactly how I felt. Jess, do you remember a couple years ago when Jimmy Butler puts out on Instagram, Philly, thank you? And I said, Jess, I don't want to read too much into this, but it feels like the end. Mm-hmm. It was at that moment that I was like, oh, no, Carson's not coming back. Now, until it's announced, I'm going to hold out hope every single day until it says on my bottom line, Carson is traded to X. Because once that happens, you have no chance of a quick rebuild. None. You may not have one anyway, but you truly have none at that point. To me, if Carson stays, if John Dorsey gets to put a little bit of input on the draft, you don't overthink at number 6, and you draft either the newly named Heisman Trophy winner Devontae Smith or Jamar Chase. You don't think twice about this. And then you fill in your roster with the other 8 or 9 picks that you're going to have. Then maybe, because your division is so who the hell knows who they are, we don't know what Dallas is next year. We don't know if Dak's going to be back with Dallas next year. The Giants are going to keep improving probably. The Redskins are going to keep, but the Redskins don't know who their quarterback is now. They're going to have to probably draft a quarterback. Right? I mean, I know they won the division, but Jesus. But, and that was the whole thing. Like I kept saying, look, I don't like the way this looks. I don't like the way it ended for the Eagles, but I do not feel one iota of remorse for the Giants or their fans. Your team was 6-10, bro. Joe Judge, your team was 6-10. You scored 2 touchdowns in the month of December. 2.
I found some solace in the sad tweets from Giants players.
Well, it's so funny, Mr. PD, Mr. I want to win Super Bowls and go and sign a contract because of money. Golden Tate is going to talk about integrity. These fans and writers there who were literally screaming for the Giants to tank are now going to get pissed because another team did it. Okay.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
Win more games, bro. Like,
Yeah.
how about you win more than 6 games and not have to rely on a 4-11-1 team who tied with the Cincinnati Bengals to get you to the playoffs?
Yeah.
Idiots.
Now, a couple comments here. If you do end up trading Carson, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get a first round pick and anything else. If anything, you're going to get a second round pick.
I don't know if that's totally true.
I don't think anyone gives up a first round pick from the standpoint of Carson Wentz, whatever trade value Carson Wentz has attached to his name. It's lower now than it was, say, a year ago.
I don't know if that's entirely true.
I don't think you could get any more than a 2, and you're definitely not getting 3 picks for him. You're not wrong in thinking, like, if I'm the Eagles, I ask for the moon. Like, that's just what I'm going to do. And if I don't get it, I'm not moving them, unless it's going to be a major issue. Here's the one thing. I understand what this guy's saying, what Yam is saying. I just don't think it's salvageable under Doug. That might be true to a certain extent. However, if Press Taylor gets his ass out of here finally, if an offensive coordinator can come in here, then I think it's salvageable. I agree. As it is now, it's not. It's not. But I'm hoping to God that there's at least a little bit of sense in these guys to realize if we're keeping Howie and Doug, we've got to make other moves around them.
Yeah.
And we'll see. My man McGinty can't wait till one day when the Giants have the division clinched and they have to play Saquon in the regular season for the integrity of the game. As Joe Judge said, as long as I'm the Giants coach, that'll never happen here. Yeah, okay, dude. You come from the Bill Belichick line, which is the least integrity. So I don't want to hear it.
Did you see NBC Sports Philadelphia's tweet last night
Which one?
during the fourth quarter of the Sixers game?
Yes.
That was, and then there was a screenshot of it on Instagram, and it had like a tag a Giants fan in it. And my friend Haley, her boyfriend Kyle, is from New York, so he's a Giants fan, and we've had a lot of fun over the last couple of years because they've continuously lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. And I tagged him in it, and he was not happy with me, but that's neither here nor there. It made me laugh pretty hard.
So, with all this said, Jess, as we get into the final segment here, where do the Eagles go from here? You're going to have a defensive coordinator you got to fill. Now, there seems to be a lot of names out there this year, just by chance. Darren Bevel, Steve Wilkes, just to name a couple guys. I mean, there's going to be Gus Bradley. Could you imagine if we finally get Gus here, but it's as a defensive coordinator? After all those years ago when the Gus bus was rolling through town and we thought he was ours and we got Chip. We got Chip.
Yeah, I mean, the current talk is he's the favorite for the Raiders coordinator job.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there's so much else going on. I completely forgot until you said it that we needed a defensive coordinator.
I think
that's where we are right now.
I think you're going to need a special teams coordinator. I think Dave Phipp is going to be gone because he was god-awful this year.
Bad.
I think your linebackers coach has got to go. Ken, whatever the hell his last name is, because that's a train wreck. Outside of an Alex Singleton season, the linebacker position is still a train wreck.
Yeah, but again, that's not the coordinator's fault. They suck.
Yeah, they do, but I think
they could maybe make the practice squad on the rest of the 31 NFL teams.
But I think that this guy's now been here for quite a few years, and not one linebacker's developed underneath him.
I remember one.
You're never going to let it go, are you?
No.
We're now nearing 3 years, and you are staying on it, aren't you?
I'm not going to let that one go because we're still sitting here screaming about linebackers.
We are.
We had one. Jackasses.
I don't.
If this team didn't have such a chokehold on my heart, if I was not born and raised into this sports fandom, I would absolutely walk away from the Philadelphia Eagles because how gosh darn mad I am at them right now.
I'm telling you, we are. Thank God, we have the Sixers right now.
Thank God for the Sixers. Okay, in August, if you would have told me in January I was going to be thanking God for the Sixers, I think I would have drank a second bottle of red wine.
Yeah.
I can't believe it, but thank God for Daryl Morey and the Sixers.
Man, well, listen, it's been a hellacious year for the Phil. Why am I echoing?
I don't hear you echoing.
You don't?
No.
I don't know. I hear myself echoing.
I don't know what to tell you.
It's been a hellacious year. I for one, am glad it's over. I, for one, am glad we won't have to talk about the Philadelphia Eagles outside of, as far as on the field. Obviously, they are going to be they're going to be in the news for a while for us. There's just going to be story after story after story. I've already done like 12 mock drafts, and I don't even know half the guys in the draft yet. But enjoy the Sixers, ladies and gentlemen, because that's where our fun can be.
Thank God for the Sixers.
Yes.
And the Flyers start soon.
And the Flyers start soon. My last
From tomorrow.
8 days. Yeah, 8 days. My last segment on Voice of the People this week was a begging and a pleading to our winter sports teams that the fan base of this city needs something to be happy about, needs something to come together on, because the Phillies and the Eagles have pissed us off to no end. No end. And that is upsetting. Jess, any final thoughts?
I hate the Philadelphia Eagles. I love them so much. But I hate them. I'm
Yeah.
so sad. I'm so sad. I can I've lost at least
Let
6
this make
years
you
of my
happy.
life.
This will make you happy.
Oh, don't even get me started on how happy I am watching the two of them on the floor together right now. It is so unbelievable for my brand as an individual for things to be going as well as they are, including Tobias Harris playing as well as he is.
I'm happy for him, man.
Listen, I wanted them to keep him. I've talked about it, and I've again said the money is a lot, right? And people are mad about the money, and I
We
get
gotta stop
that.
looking at the money.
But in terms of what you want out of your highest paid player, he was giving it to. I know he had his struggles on the offensive end, but he stepped up immensely on the defensive end throughout the season last year. And in terms of the leadership that he has on and off the floor, we talked about how Ben's a quiet guy. Joel's just a little bit goofy. They needed one voice to sort of pull it all together. And if nothing else, that's what Tobias Harris did.
Yeah.
And in terms of what he did, especially for them off the court last summer, leading them in some of the different social justice initiatives, being a part of what the groups that the NBA has created, and doing what he's done and being such a prominent voice there, that made me so proud that he was a Philadelphia 76er. And then everything you saw, when he came down on his head in that last game and still came back out on the floor, there was no reason he should have come back out on the floor, but he did. And that's exactly what you want out of the guy who you look at to be your leader. And, we talked about him as being one of the most underrated aspects of bringing Doc Rivers to Philadelphia. Is Doc Rivers is apparently the Tobias Harris whisperer.
Yeah.
And I am so happy. And I love the fact that he's kind of like messing with the fans, and the fact that I know everything you were saying about me, and I've read all the things you've said. And I think that's really cool that he's kind of doing that. And I'm so, I am over the moon. The moon.
And don't forget about our boy Tyrese Maxey, the rookie, playing great basketball.
How the hell did he fall to 21? No March Madness.
You know why? No, I'll tell you why. Because there's too many people concerned with he can't shoot.
Someone did. When I tweeted that last night, how the hell did Tyrese Maxey fall to 21? And someone responded and said, I guess Howie Roseman has a lot of relatives in the NBA. And I almost fell over from laughing so hard.
Well, that's what we're going to concentrate on here on the Madness and here in Philadelphia now for the next few months for sure. Jess, what is going on with Babes on Broad? Fill us in. What do you do now that you don't have to deal with the Eagles other than
jump for joy? No, we have okay. So tomorrow we're recording an episode. It'll be a nice little rant episode. We're recording a second episode on Thursday with a very special guest joining us. So you're going to want to make sure that you stay tuned and keep your eyes out for that. We will have Sixers pregame live on Thursday, 6:30. We will not say a word about the Philadelphia Eagles. We will just talk about how excited we are for the Sixers, and we'll be excited and be happy. And that's what we've got going on this week.
All right. For us, we have New Voice of the People dropped today. Make sure you check that out. It is my New Year's resolution for the Philadelphia sports fan and for sports in general. We're going to have – listen, the Painted Lines is doing some big things. There is literally live videos, multiple live videos going out every single day. We hit 3,000 subscribers the other night. We're on pace to hit 5K by mid-February, okay? Make sure you're paying attention. We're doing live streams for the Sixers games, live streams for the Eagles game. Or no.
Nope.
Flyers.
No.
Flyers. Live stream for the Flyers games. We are throwing around a ton of new ideas daily to try and get more things going. So make sure you're subscribing to the Painted Lines. These guys are working hard. Jason Blevins covering the Sixers. Austin Krell covering the Sixers, doing a great job. So make sure you are following all of our guys. Couple of people watching today. We have a golf podcast now.
Ooh.
Flyers podcast is starting to pick up some steam here as they get near. So make sure you are paying attention. But the madness will still be here. We're not going anywhere. We'll be back in our normal slot whenever the Sixers are not playing on a Thursday. It just makes it a little.
Or it's not New Year's Eve or Christmas Eve.
Or yeah, it's been a weird couple of weeks, guys. It's been a weird couple of weeks. But Jess and Rob are back together, so that's a good thing. All right. Jess, where can people find you online?
You can find me at Run This Town with an E13 on Twitter. All of my fun things are there. As Chris said earlier, I woke up and chose violence today. So that's where I was on Twitter. He wasn't wrong. Yeah, that's where you can find me. Same or on Instagram at Jessica_Town. And all of my stuff you can find on all the links there and all that good stuff.
All right, make sure you're checking out Jess and Babes on Broad and all that great stuff. I'm excited to find out who she's got Thursday. As for me, you can follow me at Philly_Madness. Make sure you're following the Painted Lines. I'm typically just popping on randomly on these live streams just to have a little bit of fun, so you'll catch me out there. So, for Jess, I'm Rob. Have a great week. Embrace the madness, everybody.